Welcome into a special edition of the Collins Janus Show. It is March Madness time. It is time to fill out those brackets, and that's exactly what we're going to do. You'll have your normal Collins Janus Show episode drop on Friday, but this week we've got a bonus episode. We're going to go through the bracket pick by pick, give you something to follow tomorrow and before Thursday when actual games start. You know, you've got the first four matchup. This will drop tomorrow on Tuesday, so we're recording it Monday night, so you'll have your chance to fill out those if you want to make sure you get those first four matchups in as well. Traditionally as a seasoned bracketologist, I don't always put a whole hell of a lot of stock into those matchups. It does occasionally play itself out, but for this sake here, we are going to give you a full look at the breakdown. You will be able to follow along as I make the picks through both East, West, Midwest, and South. We're going to start first. We've got the whole bracket laid out in front of us here. We'll start, I think, with what I would say is probably the most cut and dry portion of the bracket. Let's start with the South. You've got the reigning national champion at the 1 seed in Florida taking on the winner of one of the play-in games that is going to play itself out. To be honest with you, this is the one of the play-in games, one of the play-in games that I'm not too terribly worried about. This one I do have as Florida getting the win there pretty easily there. I think Florida has a really good team and a better shot than I thought they were going to have at this point going into last season. Going from the end of last season, I should say, into this season, I thought the talent drain would be a little bit more noticeable, but they have put together a hell of a roster. So Florida gets my first pick there. Then we move down to the 8 and the 9, the Clemson Tigers and the Iowa Hawkeyes. I know a lot of people are going to be tuned into this game here. ESPN's matchup bracket here showing you some of the information. And this is a great site. If you use ESPN for the men's tournament challenge, you get all these great handy insights. Game opening at a 1.5 spread in favor of the 2.5. It opened at 1.5. It's moved to 2.5. As much as I don't really have a lot of faith in it, I'm taking the Clemson Tigers in this one. I have no faith in Brad Brunell, but for some reason, he does seem to get his way out of a situation like this. Iowa, again, a respectable 9, but I think overall the talent that Clemson faces throughout the year is better. I think their floor is a bit higher than Iowa's with regards to this bracket. Moving down here, got our first 5 versus 12, and this is always where the fun upsets are picked. And normally it's easy to just kind of fall in line with thinking that the 5 and the 12 is where you're going to get it. I think if you'll even go down here all time, let's see if it shows us that. There you go. There's the handy dandy stats. Number 5 seeds have won 64.4% of the meetings with 12 seeds. At least one 12 seed has defeated a 5 seed in 34 of 40 tournaments, though. And in fact, of the 5 versus 12s, we have Vanderbilt McNeese, we have Texas Tech Akron, we have High Point in Wisconsin, and then St. John's at Northern Iowa. This is the one I like the most on upset. I'm taking McNeese over Vanderbilt in this one. Take whatever you want away from Will Wade's departure to NC State, but again, they've built something there that you can credit Will Wade for starting in a lot of ways and kind of materializing last season, but I think it's going to be a matchup where I don't love this Vanderbilt team. I know the odds are right now pretty stacked against the McNeese Cowboys, 11.5 point spread right now. I just see Vanderbilt as a very vulnerable team, and I think a team like McNeese gets off to a hot shooting performance. And again, you can sit here and break these down till the cows come home. But again, one team gets hot to start, the other team doesn't. It can be as simple as that. Moving down, I have Nebraska and Troy. I'm going to take Nebraska. I've been impressed with Nebraska this year. I thought at some point they would inevitably work themselves back to the mean, middle-of-the-road Big Ten team, but they've exceeded my expectations all year long, and I don't see any reason why not to believe them over Troy in this matchup. Now, here we go. I don't mean this is not going to be a long, drawn-out series of picks that, upset matchups, because it's just not how it works in the last couple years of the bracket. But I have no faith in what I watched play in person on Wednesday night. And again, with regards to North Carolina, and again, being down Caleb Wilson does not help their equation. going 5-3 in that time period without Wilson is fine. VCU, the one knock that you could give them that would help Carolina is they don't have the size of Carolina, but I actually like VCU in this matchup. I'm taking VCU in an upset over the North Carolina Tar Heels. Look, folks, I think there's a real conversation that has been had around Hubert Davis for the last couple of years, and I think this one and out is not going to help ease those conversations for anybody involved. So definitely something to keep an eye with there. Next up, Penn and Illinois. I'm going to take Illinois. Some of these are going to go cut and dry, so we're not sitting here all night. St. Mary's, Texas A&M, give me St. Mary's. And to round out the bracket, one of my favorite teams, one of the best teams, I think, in this tournament period, and it's not crazy to say that as a 2 seed, is Houston. I thought Houston probably should have won the title last year. I had them picked over Florida, and I thought they really could have done it. But so there you go. We'll work our way through the South, and we'll do it one by one. So we'll start with the South. We'll go back to the top. It's Florida over Clemson. Doesn't need a lot of explanation there. Florida's more talented. They're better coached. They have better players. What more do you want as far as a breakdown? And if you look at the actual breakup matchup, I mean, that's pretty damn sizable right there. Enough pieces came back, and, this is a damn good Florida team in a damn good conference now. It's crazy to say that about the SEC, but they've gotten there. 12-4. I'm going to take Nebraska over McNeese here. Good damn run out of the Nebraska Cornhuskers. Getting their way into the Sweet 16. That's a big accomplishment for that program. VCU, Illinois. This could get tricky. This is definitely not a cut and dry 11-3, but I will take the Illinois Fighting Illini. And then St. Mary's, Houston. All due respect to St. Mary's, I think Houston is going to roll in that one, and they're going to get through to a matchup with Illinois. So your breakdown here as the final two matchups of the South portion of the bracket, you have Florida, Nebraska, Illinois, and Houston. We're going to take Florida, and we're going to take Houston. So that sets us up with those two coming out of the South for a matchup. And it's ultimately going to be won by the Houston Cougars, get a win over the reigning national champion Florida Gators. So they are our first Final Four team locked into the bracket. We'll go over to the other side now. If you're a 1 seed, you have to be jealous of what the bracket broke out for Michigan this year. Michigan getting probably the best spot overall as a 1 seed. Easiest path, in my opinion, to get to the Final Four. They get a matchup in the first round with UMBC. Howard, the winner of that matchup. I'm going to take Michigan either way. I think, that will be an interesting game. I think UMBC wins that game, personally. So that, if you want to fill that out, I think UMBC gets the win there. Then they move down to Georgia and St. Louis, and I'm taking St. Louis. St. Louis is one of the best seeds, best 7 or back seeds in this entire bracket as far as I'm concerned. And I say that to say, as much as I talked about the ease of a path to Michigan to get to the Final Four, this is probably one of the bigger stumbling blocks they'll get, is I think a hot shooting St. Louis team could really be a problem. And I think it'll give them a great game, but I think ultimately Michigan still wins in that matchup. So we'll go ahead and knock that out. Moving a little further down the board, Texas Tech, Akron. I like Texas Tech here. It could be talked into an Akron pick, but I think overall Texas Tech is a strong program. And even if they're down a little bit from what I think they probably would expect or come to expect at this point, 5 seed is nothing to shake a stick at, and they should be respected as such. Alabama, Hofstra moving it up here. Now, Alabama decided to make this extra interesting this week with having just a little bit more drama thrown into the mix. So being a 4 seed, that's all fine and good. But when you have news break today that Aiden Holloway was arrested facing a felony marijuana charge, throwing into question just what, if any, limitations or changes or availability to whatever. Going to be a lot of questions. And regardless if he plays or he doesn't play, it's going to create a lot of extra unnecessary attention, which always seems to rear its head when we get into March. But that's just something else to take into the equation. I believe he is going to play, so I don't believe it's going to be a problem in that regard. You got Tennessee versus the winner of the play-in game here between Miami of Ohio and SMU. Now, here's the interesting thing. I think both these 11 seeds could beat Tennessee. I do think Miami of Ohio wins that game. but I think SMU could still beat Tennessee in this matchup. Tennessee is a dead man walking to me. I haven't seen a single thing from Tennessee in the last month of the season that's given me any confidence in this team. Being a 6 seed is probably a gift, thinking that they could probably benefit from getting a matchup like an 11, but when your 2-11 options are Miami of Ohio, who's lost 1 game all season, or SMU, don't love that for you guys. Tennessee gets an upset in round 1. If nothing else, I pray to God we actually get a little bit more volatility. Last year's was such a chalk bracket, it almost made me nauseous. Virginia, Wright State, I'm going to take Virginia. Virginia upped their status to me last week during the ACC tournament. They really put themselves in a prime position to get themselves in the hunt here at the right time. Kentucky, Santa Clara, this is going to be a popular upset pick. Right now, the spread is only, it opened at 1.5. It's up to 3.5 for the Wildcats. I think overall, Kentucky needs this win, and I think that's probably going to push them. I don't think they want any more discussion about having a hit-or-miss start to the Pope era, so I think they get a win there. And then moving it down here to Iowa State, Tennessee State. Iowa State is a damn good team this year, so I have Iowa State advancing there. And now we move around here to talk our way through. Iowa State is a damn good team. I think they get their matchup set there and roll through Tennessee State, unfortunately, for Tennessee State. I think Iowa State is one of the better teams in this entire portion. Lower half of the bracket, I should say, between the South and the Midwest. I think Iowa State is a really, really good team. We've already moved Michigan along, so we'll move Texas Tech over Alabama here. I have that playing itself out there. If you look at the preview matchup, this one gives the advantage to Alabama overall. Aiden Holloway, there's things to like on both teams. I like JT Toppin, as a player to watch and a player to focus on when you're talking about a team like Texas Tech. I think ultimately they get past Alabama. I think the distractions around Alabama are going to be there, and I think ultimately this is not the best Nate Oates team we've seen. Moving down to the bottom half of the South or the Midwest bracket here, Iowa State, Kentucky. Give me Iowa State, as I just sang their praises, and Virginia over Miami of Ohio / SMU. That leaves you with Michigan, Texas Tech. I said Michigan was going to have a way with this portion of the bracket. They will. I love Virginia, love what they do, but Iowa State's going to move on in that one, leading to another damn good Elite Eight matchup. You've got Michigan versus Iowa State, and I have Michigan moving on to the Final Four as the representative of the Midwest. Now we've worked our way up. Let's talk about the West portion of this bracket. You've got LIU, Long Island University, getting a 16 seed. Shout out to my friend Phil Constantino. I believe he's done some work for them in the past. And I believe he might still be up there working for him. So good for him, getting to be a part of a great season up there. Arizona, though, is going to get this win. Before we go too far down the damn road with this, Arizona is one of those programs that I have never trusted as far as I've been following these things, because Arizona comes in with a lot of noise. Now, granted, they've gone through more than one coach in the time period that I'm talking about, from when I really started paying attention to a bracket to up until now. But Arizona's like Purdue, like Michigan State, like several other programs that when we get to tournament time, they always have a great-looking team. They're a paper champion in a lot of regards, and they ultimately come up short in their results. I don't think that's entirely the case this year. I have them as a strong. They deserve to be a 1. There's no doubt about that. We'll break it down. 8, 9, Villanova, Utah State. This is going to be a popular pick, but Utah State. This is not a strong Villanova team. It is not a strong Big East. It is disappointing for me to say that wearing that hat right there, but it has not been a strong Big East this year. And there's a reason why there's only 3 teams in this bracket from the Big East Conference. The most popular 5-12 matchup you're going to see, it's going to be Wisconsin and High Point. I've watched plenty of High Point basketball this year. I know exactly what they did in conference play and everything else. But I'm not falling for this, and you shouldn't fall for it. They had a matchup, I believe it was with Purdue last year. Another fraudulent program that shows up in the tournament every year with a chance to be really good and ends up being, aside from getting steamrolled by the Huskies a couple of years ago in a title, ultimately lesser than they should be. So Wisconsin gets the win over High Point. Moving down the bracket here, we got Arkansas and Hawaii. Give me the Calipari-led Razorbacks there. Moving down the list. Now, this is another interesting one here. Texas, NC State versus the winner getting BYU. First of all, I'm going to say I think State wins that matchup. I think Will Wade and company gets into the tournament. But the problem is they're going to run into BYU. And I think BYU obviously faded a bit from where I think that a lot of people had them starting the season at as far as the ceiling for this team. But I still think single players can still really do some amazing things in this tournament. And BYU has it. And they have a guy that can lead them on a charge in this tournament. It's amazing how it happens because in no other form of sport can really one guy take over. But in this March Madness tournament, you get a lot of those instances. You have guys throw a team on their back, whether it be a Kemba Walker with the Huskies, or you have, a Carmelo Anthony or a Cade Cunningham, or you can just go down the list. A DJ Burns at NC State, a guy that just kind of brings a team up the mountain with him. Whether they should have been there or not on paper, doesn't matter. They play hero ball, they do what they need to do, and they go ways in the tournament. I'm going to take BYU here. That will be a tough game, though. It will be a very tough game. And I think even if Texas gets it, it's a tough matchup for BYU overall. Gonzaga and Kennesaw State. Gonzaga and Kennesaw State. Look, very impressed Kennesaw State, but Gonzaga is going to move on in this matchup here. Gonzaga gets the pick here. I'm curious to see the spread here on this. Oh my God, 20.5 for Gonzaga over the Kennesaw State Owls. No love for the 21-13 Owls. I'm impressed y'all got here. I respect the effort. I respect the performance. I just think you caught a bad 3. And I'm going to give Gonzaga the vote there. Moving down the bracket we go. Miami, Missouri. Tends often get looked for the pick here in opening round play. I'm not looking at it that way. I think Miami is a solid team. A little bit disappointing as far as the ACC tournament is concerned. I still think they get a win over a team like Missouri. Curious to see the opening spread on that is 1.5. It opened at 2.5. It's down to 1.5. I think people are getting in early on Missouri, and that will shift that line around, but I ultimately think the Hurricanes come out on top. And then Queens, just down the road. Quite a great story, and God, would I love nothing more for them to beat Purdue. I really would. The opening line on this was 23. It's moved to 25.5. I really hate that. It is the way it is, but I would love nothing more. Actually, I think of any seed upset, I would love to see Queens upset Purdue. I wish I could vote for it. I can't. I have to take this seriously. This is bracketology. This is March. I have to take it seriously, and Purdue gets the win over Queens, though I would love if Queens pulled it there. Moving along pretty quick on this, Arizona getting the win over Utah State. Good matchup. I've been guilty of following the Badgers too closely, though, in the past. I'm going to take John Calipari and the Razorbacks here in that one. Moving down, you got BYU Gonzaga. This is interesting. As I sit here and think this one out a bit longer, you could say Gonzaga's the better team. AJ's the better player. He's the best player on the floor. They have some interesting wins between the two of them. They have some tight losses. I mean, you talk about some tough teams that this BYU squad has played. UConn, Arizona, Kansas, Houston, Arizona, Iowa State getting a win, Texas Tech, and Houston. I mean, Lord. Gonzaga, on the other hand, does have wins over Oklahoma, Alabama, bad loss to Michigan, win over UCLA and Kentucky, and splitting with the Gales. As much as, you know what? No, I'm going to do it. Give me BYU. Give me the Cougars. I'm taking BYU in an upset there. Not much of one, but I think BYU pulls that one. I love a good hero ball performance, and I think AJ can give it to the Cougars there in that one. Then moving down the list here, I don't like doing this. I really don't. Purdue gets the win. I don't love that pick. but Purdue's going to get a 2-6 matchup, and I'm taking BYU. BYU is a team that could play itself into this tournament, play itself deep into this tournament. Problem is, they're going to get to this matchup here. And as much as I don't believe in them, as much as I don't want to put myself in this position, I'm taking Arizona, and I'm taking Arizona over BYU as the third of our final four representatives. So you have 2 1s and a 2 so far represented in this bracket. Last up, it's the East, and I've saved this one for last. Not just because my beloved Huskies are in there, but there are some really interesting matchups in this one. We'll start first with the number 1 overall seed Duke Blue Devils with a win over Siena. And then we move down to the 8 and 9. These are always tricky. 8 and 9s are always a damn coin flip. You can go back in time and look at it. And if I pull the stat here from the bottom, since 2018, 9 seeds are 18 and 10 versus 8 seeds. Overall, 9 seeds have won 51% of meetings. It's always a coin flip. I like the Big Ten a bit more, so I'm going to take the Big Ten representative in that game over the 9-seeded TCU. This is another preview that you're going to see a lot of. You're going to see a lot of people jump on the Northern Iowa Panthers. I, on the other hand, have way too much respect for what Rick Pitino and company have done at St. John's over the last couple of years, and I'm not looking past the Johnnies. I'm going to take them in a win there. They're going to be a tough out for anybody. Having seen it a couple times, even after UConn beat them by 32, lost 2 other times to them already. That is a tough defensive team, and defense plays in this tournament. Flash and style will always get you places, but defense wins championships, and it's true in college basketball. Even more so now than it is in some other sports. Kansas, California Baptist here. This is really one of the more annoying Kansas teams I've ever seen in my lifetime. Like, this team could be great. Darren Peterson is one of the most frustrating players I've ever seen be this highly rated and touted. I don't think he even quite enjoys the game of basketball. I'm very confused about what it is he likes to do. But I think overall they're going to get past the 13 seed, and that's about it. All right, now we're getting into the meat of this. It's Louisville versus South Florida. My beloved former coach at my alma mater, Pat Kelsey, former coach at Winthrop in his second season at Louisville, taking on the hot 11 seed South Florida. Line is down to 5.5. It opened at 7.5. People have been moving the line a lot on this game. A lot of people are getting in on South Florida. And I think, look, the reality of it is this is a big matchup for Pat Kelsey. I'm not gonna sugarcoat it. They have to win this game. Or there's a lot of conversations about where the money's being spent, because this is an expensive Louisville roster. They gave Pat exactly what he wanted, to be treated as the big deal at a school in the ACC, in a program that cares more about basketball and football. And if you go out early with another early exit, this is really going to be like, are you really the guy we thought we were signing up for? And I do believe Pat Kelsey. I believe in Pat Kelsey. I believe Pat Kelsey's a winner. I've seen it with my own 2 eyes. And as much as I think a lot of people in our fan base would want to revel in the man's displeasure now, I won't be one of those people. I'm taking Louisville in this matchup. I'm not confident in Louisville over South Florida, but I am taking them in this matchup. Speaking of programs that I usually don't trust anymore, it's Michigan State versus North Dakota State. Unfortunately, this is a 3-14 matchup that I think Michigan State wins easily. So there you go. Congratulations to Tom Izzo and company. You get an easier route this time around. UCLA, UCF. Mick Cronin has done a good job here in the last couple weeks. They have some good wins on this schedule, and I think UCLA, for the first time in years, is actually coming into it with a little bit more momentum than they usually do in these tournaments. So I'm going to take UCLA. And then we move to UConn and Furman. Look, of course I think UConn is going to win this matchup. And I certainly don't buy a 20.5-point spread is fair to how good a program Furman has been over the last couple of years. But the reality of it is, UConn, I think UConn is a damn good team. I think the problem UConn will experience, if any problems hold this team back, it will be the unite they have shooting. This is a team that can get very streaky at times shooting. And I don't think it's going to hold them back in the early rounds. It may play a factor later on as we work this one out. This is actually the part I'm still, of all the regions of this bracket, this is the one I've had the hardest time with, is the East. Moving on, we've got back to the top here. We've got Duke, Ohio State. I know there are people in the Duke camp that are seemingly pressing alarms right now, but I don't see that being an issue against Ohio State. There's some injury concerns there for Duke that have left some people less than stellar about their chances of making the Final Four. I'm not sure I'm there yet. St. John's over Kansas. Sorry. St. John's is moving on. This is the most frustrating Kansas team I have ever seen. Because, again, Kansas has, the talent to be really a damn good option, and they have some decent wins, some decent losses, but you're asking me to put a lot of faith in a team like that, and I'm not willing to do it. And you can see the losses that have stacked up here. That's a bad loss for St. John's. The Auburn loss is a bad loss. They have 2 really good wins over UConn and 1 really bad loss over UConn. And again, there's questions about the talent that they've faced this year in the Big East, but I still think they get past Kansas because of that defense. That defense will smother a good shooting team. You got Louisville, Michigan State. Look, I love you, Pat. I don't like doing this, but Michigan State's moving on here. I think for the first time in years, they're going to, play to their expectation. It hasn't been the case for Michigan State in several years, but I think they move on there. And UCLA, UConn. Tough matchup. Tough matchup. I don't love it on paper in a lot of ways, but I do still see the Huskies pulling away late and getting the win there. So it leaves you with these 2 matchups left in the East. It's Duke and St. John's. And I'll tell you, part of me really thinks St. John's can win this game. Part of me really, really does. But I can't do it. I'm picking Duke. And it burns my soul to say it. It burns my soul to say it. The Duke Blue Devils. And you talk about tough matchups. This is another tough one for the Huskies and the Spartans. So both teams, and I'm not just trying to play this one soft. I love UConn and what they've done under Danny Hurley. It has brought me so much joy as a college basketball fan because I've been watching the Huskies since I was, this tall. But between last year getting that tough matchup with Florida that, the refs may or may not have played a big factor in the result of, that's neither here nor me or Danny Hurley to decide. I think UConn gets the win over Michigan State. So here you go. This is really where it tests my capabilities here as an impartial matchup predictor trying to win this whole bracket challenge. Do I take my beloved Huskies from my birth state of Connecticut, or do I take the Duke Blue Devils? A matchup with Houston waiting on the other side. The number 1 overall seed are the Huskies. If we get here, I can't believe I'm doing it. It breaks my heart to do it.
Six and a half hours later.
So there you go. It is a Duke, Houston, Arizona, and Michigan Final Four. Wait a minute.
A few moments later.
It absolutely breaks my heart, but that's where we wound up. Here is our Final Four. It burns my soul to do this. But fortunately, my soul can rest easy because here's how it's going to look. Bang. Bang. There you go. That is your national title game matchup in Indianapolis on April 6th. It will be number 2 Houston taking on number 1 Michigan, and the Wolverines outlast the Houston Cougars. I have to tell you, this is not going to be an easy matchup for Michigan. I really love what Houston has built over the last couple of years. I think having to avoid another matchup with Arizona does help them out bracket-wise, so being on the opposite side keeps them away from Arizona, who's had their number. But Houston gets the better of Duke, who will have brought some of those players back from injury. Not all. They will have some help. But I think ultimately Houston outlasts the Blue Devils and wins, moving their way to the championship. And they run into what I think was the best team throughout the regular season, which was the Michigan Wolverines. I think taking their Big Ten championship or Big Ten tournament run out of the equation, it ultimately didn't matter to them. And I know that sounds stupid to say because people always say and it should. Conference titles do matter, and they do matter. But Michigan proved without a shadow of doubt in the regular season that they deserved to be a 1 seed. They got the 1 seed. They got the best 1 seed they could have possibly drawn, and I think that's going to power them to a national title. I think they're better than Arizona. I think they're better than Duke. I think they're better than Houston. I think they win the national title this year. So there you go. There's our bracket. Final four: Duke, Houston, Arizona, Michigan. You follow along with us. You can write in, submit your picks, show us who you picked, who you like this March season. That is our bracketology special edition of the Collins Janus Show. Bonus show for everybody this week. Enjoy watching your matchups this week. Get in all the games you can. This is going to be a fun tournament. I think it'll be better than last year. I think it will live up to that hype. I think last year overall was a disappointment for people like myself. I think this year's tournament is going to be a lot more interesting. And even if I did pick 3 1s, there's a lot of volatility there. There's a lot of things to watch and play out. So for next time around, you can say you learned it all here, or maybe you took nothing away from what we brought here today. But there you go. That's the picks. That's what we're sticking with. Thank you for tuning in to this special edition of the Collins Janus Show. Enjoy March, folks. It's bracket time. The preceding episode was a production of Moonlight Media Works.